Thank you for joining us, ladies and gentlemen, for the WGLEU Season 2 for 2015 and 2016. My name is Mitch Leslie here with Oliver Maxfield, and our second map the match of the day, of course, is just around the corner. It's a rematch from Season 1. Both of these teams were obviously present in that season. It's going to be Kazna Crew versus UTOPIA.
Yeah, obviously the old kind of dogs, the Kazna Crew boys. A couple of new players in the lineup this season, but in general, just the same team we had last season. And UTOPIA, of course, a predominantly Polish team with, a bit of bad results, a bit of bad luck, some would say, in Season 1. But I think both these two teams had a disappointing start. I think they will be looking to get the season underway well this time. Yeah,
7th place finish for UTOPIA. And, of course, Kazna Crew ended up bowing out during our playoffs to Penta Sports, being upset in that one in quite a big way. They're really just losing the plot, unfortunately, for them. So, I mean, last time we saw these two was a pretty convincing result, I like to think, from Kazna Crew. They looked a lot stronger at the time. It was 5-0, but everything's very much different now. You mentioned some lineup changes there. What more light can you shed on us there?
Well, the big thing is, I mean, Kazna Crew, they're looking to be like a stronger lineup because they've kind of maybe got some of those players from, for instance, Wusa in the lineup. Stefan's in there. The main caller for Wusa's joined in, or otherwise known as Karate Kid, of course. I think he's going to be good. I mean, we didn't really see how he performed last season in terms of Wusa just plummeting all the way to the bottom and getting automatically relegated in 12th place, which I don't think anyone really expected. So he's got a lot to prove. Of course, FK Schnitzel's been jumping around teams as well. He was in and out of Wusa for the relegation matches, and I think he's now cemented himself as a regular spot in Kazna Crew. And Ruster, he's going to be one of those guys who, despite being on the Continental Rumble analysis desk, which is a massive accolade, is going to be on the kind of bench for this season, I think.
I actually casted him playing another game this week, so Ruster's doing a few other bits and pieces around the place here. So be interesting to see if he's sort of used or if his passion is still present there for the World of Tanks. Remains to be seen. And UTOPIA actually with a fairly unchanged roster, actually. It's the same guys, MV Papa still in the mix there as well. Shukyu, Hallucinogen, coming up with a lot of the same guys. I think Forbidden is one of the new players joining the lineup, but Wicked and Mooker are still there, so very much still the same.
Forbidden joined at the end of the season, so I mean, he's still there. I mean, Papa is, as you mentioned, a great guy for them. He did some MVP Papa stuff last time. So I mean, both these teams are predominantly the same, I think.
Absolutely. His 59-16 play was stunning, and Papa now obviously moving up to a tier 8 at least in this season. It'll be interesting to see now if he's still used as that sort of roaming sort of lower tier tank and doing some work there. We know he can do a heck of a lot in that position there, so we'll be waiting to see how that one comes out. And of course, Melly, the vote is up. Kazna Crew have always had a big following. I'm sure tonight probably no different.
Absolutely. We have a solid 86% voting for Kazna Crew, but surprisingly, well, at least my opinion, surprisingly, that it's a lot of 5-4 predictions in that vote. So not really comparable to their past encounter where Kazna Crew pretty much stomped UTOPIA with a clear 5-0. And it seems like the community is up to something. Well, at least UTOPIA is, as it seems.
Well, at least they're putting a little bit more stock in UTOPIA now than maybe more than they did than last season. But that being said, UTOPIA has had a strong following as a team that's really been around for quite some time in the WGL, at least in the Gold Series. And obviously with, quite a few Polish players in the mix there as well, who always received quite well by our viewers. So they're getting behind their players, which is good. And of course, guys, don't forget you can get in touch with us at any stage during the show with the hashtag WGLEU, as Melly did point out, alongside the voting and all that kind of stuff. Join the conversation. We'd love to hear what your thoughts are, and even if you have any impressions from these games. We do have a few regulars that always give us the ups or give us the idea of how they're feeling about things, so don't be afraid to join in on that one as well. Now, our first map for this one is actually one we haven't seen yet, but it was a map that Kazna Crew actually valued. We're going to go back to Season 5 or even the Grand Finals, but even before that, back to Sofia, where this is actually the map, and Kazna Crew up against Virtus Pro in the Season 5 Finals actually crushed them. It's going to be Murovanka.
Yeah, this is the map that broke Virtus Pro's back, essentially, on, I think. A good map for Kazna Crew. This is their map choice as well. So, I mean, you get to pick your map, and then the other team picks the sides. That's how it works. You do that for 2 maps. The next map will be Ghost Town, and then you have to ban, the 2 teams ban a map each, and then you pick the next 2 maps. So that's how it works in general. But yeah, I mean, I think Kazna Crew, they're still comfortable in this one. I think a lot of the teams kind of neglected Murovanka as a train map, and having had not that much time since Season 1, only a few months, and only even less, like a month in Continental Rumble almost exactly, I think Kazna Crew will have that like backbone, that core ability to play Murovanka, and you remember they like to play it pretty aggressively. They like to roam around the map. They like to go forwards, and they had artillery in use as well. Let's see if that's being picked up. So far, I don't see it. I do see it from UTOPIA, though, with Papa in the M40, M43.
Interesting. Papa moving over towards that artillery role. Very, very different towards his light tank antics that we saw from him in that last season. Now, I mean, every time we talk about Kazna Crew as well, there's always a lot of faith behind them. They had a really, really strong season until the end, where they sort of fell against Penton. Now, we talked about that. We talked about, maybe discussed why that was an issue. Do you think... you know, that's still going to be an issue for Kazna, of the mental side of things here, because they didn't start strong in that they couldn't carry any momentum, they didn't generate any, and they sort of started to tilt a little bit from what we could see against Penta.
Yeah, it was even started before that. I mean, first of all, they were in second place for a lot of the season, third place, and then they went down to fourth place. So that was a problem. I mean, they started to drop towards the end of the season, but they actually went into playoffs in fourth place, so they were going through the upper bracket. They played Virtus Pro. Now, that was one hell of a match. You've got to watch it on the /WGLEU for YouTube. And it was a 5-4 victory on Mines for Virtus Pro just on that last round, and it came so close. You know, a couple of shells by Eurofish could have changed it, you know, changed the outcome of the match. But I think that's really where Kazna Crew's problem started. That's where they started to lose, and then he went on to Ruinberg on the first map on Penta, and Penta just smashed Kazna Crew and put them in a bad position. And I think that's where they started slipping. But it started with that first map. You know, I think if Kazna had been in second place, I think if they got to the finals, they would have been able to be in, you know, Penta Sports' position where they would have been fighting probably Wombats, and would have had a better chance than, let's be honest, than Penta, because Penta, they had a lot of new players in there, a lot of players who weren't experienced at finals, whereas the entirety of Kazna Crew, they've been here since Season 1, when it was actually Season 1. So they got that experience behind them. So that was a blip in the radar, I hope, for Kazna Crew. They have to get a top 1 or 2 position if they want to have a realistic chance of going to the grand finals as a 100% pick without any of the wild cards or whatever, any of those kind of things.
Yeah. And, you know, it's very, very funny to track Kazna Crew's sort of performance through that period as well. And it's interesting that, you know, we did highlight there's some issues with that team. It was almost like we said if Kazna Crew can automatically qualify for the finals, they'll be very, very strong. But they didn't quite get there. Yeah. They didn't get their first or second spot, which meant they had to fight online to get to the offline. Now, these guys are what we call land dragons, right? They're absolutely fantastic offline, but they have to get through the online stage to sort of get there. And that was the struggle for them. That's why their season results also vary quite a lot, and some interesting results we may not have expected from them. You need to get top 2 out of 12 to actually automatically go through to the finals. So that's a big ask, especially when there were such big teams as Tornado Rocks, Virtus Pro in the Mixed Wombats and Tanks, obviously now they're called, and Team Supreme last season. Kazna Crew were definitely in there with a shot, but it wasn't going to be easy. They dropped some really crucial games, and very, very hard to stand up against Rocks, and of course Team Supreme sitting pretty at the top of that ladder last season. This season, though, may be completely different, and that's why we look towards this game to get a bit of an idea of how Kazna Crew are tracking, to maybe just take the temperature of that team and get some sort of you know, impression about how they're going to be going forward. So we are waiting for I think maybe one more player from Kazna Crew to sort of get himself readied up, and we're jumping in this map very,
call him out.
very
Let's see if
shortly.
I can find who we're waiting for. Vetso. We're waiting for Vetso. So I can already tell you, I mean, Stefan, a new player to Kazna Crew since Wooster's kind of disbanded. He's going to be joining the lineup probably instead of FKK and Ruster. So that's going to be interesting. Also, Palauda, you know, so a man you have to mention. So that's going to be interesting to see how he performs. Not sure what his role will be in there. Maybe he's going to be a shot caller. But thinking about, you know, Wooster's performance last season, I would be wanting to keep him as like a top tier damage dealer, basically. For UTOPIA, I mean, it looks like very much of what they had last season with your Bishies, your Wickeds, your Muckers, Forbidden, Shock Q, and Hallucinogen Papa. So basically, they're keeping to what they know. Desha and McMoney. Desha, a new player for UTOPIA, have been enjoying to see what he's been going to look forward to see if he's going to be subbed in at some point. Maybe in those more heavy tank orientated maps.
And this was what we did see UTOPIA go for as well. They favoured heavier setups. They like to go with the
IS3s.
Yep, the IS3s were as a big factor factor for them. Sometimes they take 5. I mean, I remember one game, it was at one of our Polish derbies actually, maybe against Stronk, where they were on Himmelsdorf, spawning in the north, and they pushed across to the south with 5 IS3s and just wrecked Stronk's hammer really, really badly. Maybe it was no mercy. I don't want to call anyone out there, but it was very, very impressive from them. So they comfortable playing heavy tanks, and that translates quite well in towards this new format, in towards the 768 format, because there are a lot of big beasts there as well with big guns, and these guys have shown a proclivity at least to go in that direction for them here. We can tell you at least heading in towards this one that they're going with some heavies. UTOPIA, they're going to be starting I believe on the attacking side here, so they're going to be going for some of those larger tanks here, but Murovanka is going to be a very, very interesting map to see. Of course, it's the first time this season we've seen it. It's time to go check it out though, ladies and gentlemen, so let's get a refresher course on the map we haven't seen since Season 5. It's Murovanka. As Ollie, you sort of gave a prelude to, Stefan is going to be in the lineup here for Kazna Crew. His stats online are absolutely incredible. These two teams now with very, very even health pools here in his first game as UTOPIA are going to be coming forward here, and let's see what they can put together.
It's interesting. I mean, Stefan is a great player all round, but I mean, is Kazna Crew's problem really individual players? I don't think so. I think they got the cream of the crop in Europe. So I think it's more of a problem of them just not being able to stand up to some of the pressure, some of the kind of twos and goes which happen in these leagues, and it's definitely going to be a problem. But artillery from Papa is going to be an interesting thing. You can see he's in A3, a very normal position for artillery, and a big shell does come from Hyber. T54 just trying to get those initial exchanges, keep pressure on Hallucinogen.
So those two tanks are mostly just fighting in the middle of the map here, and that's a big, big artillery hit now coming from Papa. Hyber very badly crippled from that one here and forced to repair quite hastily now, as it definitely does give Hallucinogen the edge here. Now, the cap's underway. I should point this out as UTOPIA have already made their way on towards that cap on the other side of the map, and Kazna Crew haven't really set up in their entirety yet. They've actually lost out heavily in these early damage trades here as well. This solid armoured core here for UTOPIA, these two 110 E5s and the FB215B are set up on this cap and making it very, very fast here. What can Kazna do to respond?
Well, Hyber's from the side. He might be able to find one of these two, but it's going to be very hard considering the hills and everything. But Nex is coming from the top. You've also got Stefan on the right.
Well, there's a shot coming in towards Bishu, and that is going to slow things down just a little bit there, but Forbidden picks up Hyber as he tries to get side on and get some shots towards that FV. Bishu continuing to take some damage, but it's not resetting this cap to progress much at all. The shot towards Shuki was far better in that regard there. Bishu was forced to roll out of the cap. Another shot in towards him, and Kazna Crew seem to have responded, but they've taken so much damage in the early stages of this round that to come forward now in full numbers would be absolute suicide. Look at Nexus getting crunched there by two shells coming in about 60 degrees apart from each other. Multiple angles UTOPIA shooting in from, and Kazna Crew are getting slaughtered.
The only one who's really doing any damage is Stefan. He's just being such a beast in that Object 432. That thing is a DPM machine. But no one else from Kazna Crew has really stepped up to the mark. Yizny takes down Hallucinogen in that tier 9 as well. And Kazna are getting themselves back in this game, but they are behind heavily.
They're taking so much damage for all of their movements here. UTOPIA are punishing these guys so damn well. Eurofish fancies a fight up against Wicked here as well. Does have 3 in the chamber, so should be able to finish this to STB off if he connects all of these properly. But it's not before Wicked takes down Yizny. So that bounce there as well is really going to hurt Eurofish. He now doesn't have the shots to actually finish off Wicked, and he fluffs it as well. We've so many times seen Eurofish in crucial situations where he kind of just messes up in a big way. He has to back away. He's actually going to go down. Papa! Beautiful shot over towards him to pick him up. And Kazna Crew are down to Stefan. He's got a lot of tanks to deal with here. And UTOPIA with a very, very defining performance to start things off here. I'm impressed. And Kazna Crew surely must be shaking their heads.
Stefan actually in the 140, not the Object. It was obviously Yizny in the Object. But yeah, pretty convincing round from UTOPIA. And I think once we had seen, well, Hyber going low in that T54, not a particularly massive deal, but he was trying to go forwards and get the damage for the medium tanks, but the medium tanks were going around the corner. We didn't see on camera, but I was actually looking, and you saw the 3 heavy tanks from UTOPIA just go around the corner. And I think Vetzo received like 750 damage. Elian as well, I think he received some damage.
So watch the health bars on the
he
side
received
here.
some damage. So everyone started receiving damage from Kazna Crew before they had even gotten in position to do some of their own.
And you can see the health bars, if you keep an eye on him now, you see Vetso taking damage there, even though he's not on screen. So it goes very, very low. You can see that here. And now he's forced right back in towards the corner. You can see how far back these 140s are sitting. And the fight is being taken to them by Utopia here. Team, as we've said before, we always favour seeing them in those heavy lineups, or at least playing in that heavy core to their team. They know their way around those tanks. And Kazna crew eventually can start to reset things up here a little bit for them on the cap, but they suffer so much damage. They can have to commit to it to such a great degree that they can no longer do anything after just prolonging the process.
It's always awkward because if that defensive attacking team, even from the north, can get in a position where Bishu, Forbidden, Shock you are, it's hard to dig them out. If another team has a tank, it was the STB1 in this case, where that water tower is, plus artillery as well, it can track you around the corners. And what we've seen today is that the STP has been a fantastic tank. I mean, that tank has been consistently at the top of the damage board. We've seen 2 or 3 bounces on the frontal glaciers of that thing already from high penetrating heat rounds, so it can also bounce them. So I think right tanks in the right position, covering all the angles, sending your beasts forwards, your heavy tanks forwards into the cap, and Kazna crew just being caught a bit with their pants down in a lot of respects.
The position of that cap point there over on that side of the map, the one that Utopia went for, the way it is positioned is that you can start the cap up from behind just the little edge of that hill.
Yeah.
Now, how do you respond to this now? Because it's similar to the Himmelsdorf cap where you kind of have to commit in some way
you
to
have
stop
to commit.
people from
You just have to go across that hill. You have to go down, come from every single angle, and you need to take those 3 heavy tanks down. If you can find those 3 heavy tanks, it's game over. But you got to get across. You got to get across into that bowl. As soon as you're in that bowl, in an overmatched situation, you can win those engagements easily. But until then, if you receive too much damage like Kazna crew, where 1 or 2 tanks could have fallen just getting into that bowl, you have a harder situation to attend to.
No doubt about it there. Kazna crew weren't in position. They weren't in any sort of situation where they could actually push around the corner and take Utopia out. But now, of course, the side switch, and Kazna crew actually have to change things up as well. Their position differs. They're going to go on the attacking side now. And Utopia are defending already with 1 round in the bag. So commendable performance by them to already have that lead on statistically the harder side in most cases. Now they can defend here. And they're actually heading over towards what we call the Magic Forest. I don't really know why we call that back in Australia, but that's just what it is.
Same as Europe.
Yeah.
It's because you're picking some magic mushrooms in that forest, mate. That's what everyone used to do because it was the camping forest. That's why everyone used to call it the Magic Forest.
I sort of think that anything could happen in there and you have no idea because you can't sort of see in there because there's so many hills and stuff and you just pop out.
It wasn't. It was flat as a rock at some point.
Oh, it's got some hills there. It's got the road that goes through. Now it's changed a bit.
Now
Anyway,
it has, yeah.
Look at Utopia now taking a lot of damage for their trouble here. They've actually pushed all the way towards that north to have control of those hillsides here. So they wanted to deny Kazna being able to set up and just pick at them from those water towers like Utopia did to Kazna. But Kazna have actually gone, as I said, towards the forest here, and it's quite difficult to actually gain a lot of information about a team's movements through here. You get a lot of cover, and you can see there that Defilade as well protects tanks from being seen. Isne is going to wrap around, maybe even a push towards his cap number 2, which would be interesting now, considering Utopia haven't really set up for that one, if I'm honest. Isne can sort of sit towards the back. There's a blind shot there, went towards that house. You can see Isne has to be careful of that one there as well, as Utopia just try and catch onto any sort of unaware tanks. One bad chat for Utopia's gone far towards the north here. Might even try and go in the corner there at C1, B1. But Isne right around the corner. We've seen this many, many times being done into the last format. I mean, 39 are not brilliant at the hull down here. This was a better spot for lightweights here, but Isne still fancies it, and the cap has begun.
Yeah, this is classic setup from Kazna crew. I guess for me personally, I'd prefer to put the 430 where Yizny is, but it's the other way around here. And Kazna crew, I think they can make this work either way. And if Hyper can run away quickly enough, when Utopia are eventually starting to push, when they have to go forwards, and we'll be able to have those tanks on the right side to protect them. And I think Kazna crew as well. Typically, when they played since season 5, they sat in this 2 cap, and then as soon as they got some sort of inkling that Utopia were pushing forward, or another team were pushing forward, they just pushed themselves in towards that western side. They went through the city, and they came from another angle onto the back or the sides of the other team. So I think that's what you'll see here from Kazna.
Interesting enough as well, I want to point out that the 30B has been picked up here for Marca. That's the other tier 10 French medium tank. Talk me through the thought process in going for this one here, Ollie, because we haven't seen it yet at all this season.
Well, it's the tier 9 French medium tank, very high rate of fire. It's tier 10, yeah. a very high rate of fire. I don't like it at all. I mean, I kind of likened it to Leopard. I thought it was pretty average. Hyber, though, just gets taken down very, very low there. That was a nice little spot. I think that was from the 251 Papa just going forward. Obviously, no 59-16 to put in any bushes along that road, you know, or along the HG line. So obviously that can't happen. But, you know, you could put a tier 8 there like an AMX 1390, but it could still get spotted, still get taken out. You're probably better just being more of a reactive spotter.
So Kazna crew may be hoping to get a little bit more bang for their buck with that attempt at a capture point. With Isne right in the south, they were hoping that he would be able to spot any of those tanks that were firing from the hill and get some damage back. You can see Bishu going, went a little bit low to that one here, but they sacrificed a lot of health points on Hyber. However, still close overall in terms of those health points here, and Kazna crew now want to make a move towards the north here. Utopia have given that area of the map up now, of course, to try and focus more towards the south here. So there's an opportunity for Kazna to at least set up in some way. Papa in dangerous territory. He's moving towards the north here, so he'll spot a lot of Kazna's movements right now. The cap is still being tickled there at number 2, so keeping Utopia on their toes, keeping them thinking, but seeing so many tanks here for Kazna crew has got to make them shift towards the north again.
Yeah, they do, but I think, you know, if Kazna decide to push in, this will be a dangerous situation. So 30Bs, obviously very good gun depression, pretty a tall tank as well, so they can peek over the rocks, but Papa gets taken down low. Good little volley there from Kazna.
They've managed to inflict some serious damage towards that RU-251 and will keep it fairly even up in terms of those points, and it continues to go on like this as well as Nexus just heads over the hill. A shot in towards him now with 5 minutes and 33 seconds. So we're halfway through the round here. So Kazna have a lot of time, have had a lot of time at least to set up, and they still have a bit of time now to work on something. The question is, what will that be now? As both of those capture points seem to be fairly well held by Utopia, and Kazna have already, I don't know, I guess, you know, lost their opportunity to be able to have that defensive round win under their belt here. Remember what I said, to get ahead in this format, you need to win both sides of a map here, and Utopia are so far set up to do that quite well. Kazna don't look sure of what to do at all. They really don't. They're just sitting back on this hill, hoping to get an easy pick out of Papa, but then what? What from there? Because the armoured core of Utopia is still sitting strong, still sitting all close together, making some shots towards Kazna, and they need to be dealt with at some point as well.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, the awkward thing here for Utopia is that it's actually quite hard to peek over that hill. I mean, even with the 30B, it's not tall enough to peek over that kind of ridge. So if Kazna crew can get a position just below there, they can defend it, they can start capping, but they do need to take care of Papa because he's going to be the thorn in the side. He's going to be able to shoot them from behind and continuously pester them if they don't be careful.
Hyber in the Object 430. This is actually the first time we've seen that one being used as well. It's another tier 10 Russian medium.
Yeah, a super high rate of fire, higher than the 140. Just an absolute beast, but in my opinion, superior to the 140.
39 EVs now pushing forward as well, hoping to get some spots. This is a very aggressive position here, but Utopia can't really risk to try and take him out. Pushing forward could mean their doom up against a firing squad that Kazna put together up on the hill, but a shot coming in from the off angle. That's Mucker. As he catches his knee, he's at least able to get around that hill. But Utopia have denied Kazna the task to set up on their cap point number 1 just around the corner like they did with those heavy tanks. Kazna have had to move across the map multiple times, but Isne will get on there. We'll start this thing off here. Quite well protected because the middle of the map is under control. Ilian is there, obviously star player for Kazna crew. The Polish prodigy, still a member of this lineup. Had a great season last season. Unfortunately, wasn't himself able to make the difference when it really counted, but definitely a player to garner a lot of respect, and he's definitely a bit of a celebrity actually in his homeland.
Yeah, it's a famous Polish player, respected by a lot. Shuku, they're coming behind in that Batchat Ilion, and he might be able to find. I think Ilian is aware, though, is slightly concerned. He's not a one-shot for the Batchat at the end of the day, unless, you know, Shukyu gets 1 or 2 high damage rolls on average. But if Ilian finds Shukyu's going to be in trouble, and he will.
Yep, Ilian should be able to make the first shot, and that's a very, very good start. He's tracked Shukyu as well. He doesn't have the gun depression to get a shot towards Ilian. Ilian can almost have a free shot, but one goes in towards the side of him as well. He must be aware. He has to be careful. I think that was a 30B shooting towards him, and Forbidden as well, moving up in his own Batchat here. 52 seconds left. You can see Utopia, they want to try and take control of the middle of the map so they can stop this cap, but Ilian's hanging around like a bad smell, making it a little bit hard to be dealt with here, and Kazna are also able to help him out from their shots on the hill. This isn't bad here, because Utopia have to deal with Ilian before they can even worry about that 1390 that's capping up. And Ilian, soaking damage fairly well. He's taking a lot of hits, but he's keeping these 2 tanks busy. And Kazna crew can maybe work something out, and they are. They're pushing more tanks on towards that cap.
Yeah, they're going to push forward. Eurofish, though, sees a chunk of damage.
Right there.
112, 112. And yeah, I mean, those two Batchats are kind of forced out of the fight here, so I think Kazna Crew know they have to go for the fight, and they might get the cap as well.
Is it Bishu going to come over the top? He does get the reset, but he's forced to trade a lot of health points for that one. Desha's going to come around the side as well. He's a full health 30B. Let's see what he can do. Now, Utopia may have an overmatch if they have enough tanks on those angles, but Alien doing work. He was pushed right towards the back of the map, and he still takes down Mooka. Eurofish is also there for Bishu, and there's Desha. Big shots in towards him now, and the capture does look like it's been completed, and Kazna Crew have done it under fire. They managed to win their attacking round on Murovanka, make it 1-1, and this is what we'd like to see. Both these two teams coming out of the gate strong. Much in the same way Tornado Rocks did. Kazna Crew started off a little bit confused, a little bit unsure about how to approach it, but they made the right decision. Not only did they make the right decision, but it looks like they executed that idea correctly as well.
Yeah, two very different ways of approaching that map at the beginning. Kazna going for a classic kind of number 2 cap take. Went in there with the with a tank, set the Yizny up there in the AMX 3090 towards that left side to try and get the spots to make sure that there's another tank that can go forwards. And well, the 251 of Papa was super good, just roaming forwards, found Alien, found Hyber even, and that forced Kazna Crew to go up north again, because as I said, there's no static spots, there's no 5916, which was normally just sitting there. So it's not like you can just blind shot or get that thing out of the equation. You know where that is. You know, you've always got to deal with these kind of aggressive spotters going forward. So Kazna Crew go up towards that right side, left side even, and they take down Papa eventually with Hyber in the 430. And once they do that, they can get towards the cap. And then, you know, Alien playing well against two Batchats managed to keep them distracted for long enough.
And that was that cap being started off there as well by Kazna Crew. It was just Isne inching his way on towards that capture point there. And I mean, at the end of the day, Utopia falling foul to the same, I guess, map quality or map feature that Kazna did as well. That Isne could start the cap, and mid-control was required from Utopia to do anything about it.
Yep.
And Alien, who was sitting behind that building, if you remember mid-round, sitting behind that building, and he must have had some sort of sense that something was happening in the forest, or maybe he got a spot of someone, but you can see he traced the movements of that Batchat pretty much all the way. And what I love that he did. And this is really good players will do that to Batchats as well. Hit that track, exploit the fact that they struggle to get their gun down as well. So if you're tracked on the other side of a hill there, showing your tank, you cannot fire. You're screwed. And then you see that it forced the repair out of his opponent, and then he was able to keep 2 tanks busy. It's just beautiful stuff from him as well. He almost had top damage as well. He also took down Mucker when he pushed around. So Alien was focusing not only on the forest side of things, but also on the middle of the map there. Stunning stuff from him, really. He kept it together so nicely.
Yeah, it's about map awareness when you have those kind of elements of the map. You know, it's clearly a zone on the map which Wargaming created, which is hard to get in, but once you're in, it's hard for another team to get you out. So that's the kind of thing you're going for. So Alien with some good map awareness for sure. But 2.5k from Stefan, 2.2k from Alien in both those rounds. So, you know, good players. Bishu in the 30B, 2.3k, obviously that French tank doing well. And, you know, personally, I wouldn't bring the 30B, but good gun depression. Has a lot of plus sides. Maybe a T110E5 would have done better. But next map, Ghost Town.
It's going to be very, very interesting here as well, as what we've seen from Ghost Town involves big, heavy, very, very high caliber gun tanks, E100s, 110E5s are in the mix there, 50Bs, of course, the French heavies. It's going to be very, very interesting now to see how this map works, because it's a lot more treacherous than it used to be. You know, if you get caught out of position, and I said this last night, repositioning with these heavy tanks on this map is hard, because you have to go uphill, downhill, around corners, turn your tank around, and so teams that can gain information about where their opponents are first and actually act on that and force them to make a move usually can win the round, because there just isn't time to make any of those moves.
No, I mean, we've seen, for instance, yesterday, KB trying to go forward against Penta, and then, you know, trying to make the move. I think Penta going against KB, trying to make the first move. They do get it. They get this successful kill onto Crux, but then suddenly they're in a worse position. They can't get into a better position, and KB can just change it around in a dime, on a dime, and manage to actually get the comeback. So yeah, I think you got to be careful in your positions. Now, this is one of Utopia's favorite maps in season 5, in season 1. Because they got the IS3s and they just pushed them into the cap, and let's see if they have a similar plan this time around.
This was exactly the map where we named MB Papa in that way, of course, with his efforts on the 59-16. So let's see now if maybe something, again, special coming out from the team who, like you said, really do favour this map, of course. Ghost Town, very, very much loved by this team, especially bringing those heavy tanks on towards the map here. So in just a few moments, we're going to be jumping into it. And just a little bit of a prelude here. It does seem that these teams are going for those heavier lineups. No surprises there. No E100s by the looks of things here. So let's jump in and see exactly what's happening.
Yeah, well, Kazna against Navi, when we saw them play that show match in Continental Rumble, picked like 3 or 4 or 5 E100s or something, and it simply just didn't work out for them. But obviously that was quite a silly match anyway. And well, they've gone for something more sensible. 50 Bs, FE215B, so obviously the highest DPM tank in terms of HP. It can really pump out that one. It's good to see British tanks in the lineups as well, finally, from both teams. T54s from Kazna, we've seen that before as well. Something a little bit faster, but Yizny gets caught out early on by the 50.
Now, 2 54s here for Kazna as well. Hyper and Vetso on those ones. Look at that column of FE215Bs. Bishu, Decker, and Wicked. Definitely looking to do some real damage here, as the capture has actually been started here in the north side, and Kazna actually have absolutely nothing in that north part of the map at all to answer this one, so they've got to flex those T54s around as quickly as they can. They're not 3090s in terms of their speeds. The acceleration isn't exactly stellar for those tanks, so they really need to act quickly here, as they've already got a couple tanks on there and down to 23 seconds. So Kazna have to focus at the task at hand as well. This big core of Utopia, these big FE215Bs, they have to be dealt with as well. This capture keeps ticking down. Ilian's going quite low here as well. Definitely not the game he would have hoped to get. Now, Hybrid Vetso stopped to get the little flank on towards Shukyu. It did work out, but this is going to mean they're a little bit later towards the cap. They better hope they have some spots here as well. They're going to have to get close and give up some health points, surely.
I think they will be able to find a few tanks on the caps. But the thing is, Papa and Hallucinogen Mucker are safe, but Yizny's in the back.
He just has to buy time now. He knows he has to give up a lot of health points. And look, the FE215Bs, they're pushing around from behind Yizny. He only has seconds to live right now, and he must make every single one of these count. He's pushed around the corner as well to try and protect him from those tanks behind him, but it's only going to work for so long. Stefan gets in as well, off towards the side of Hallucinogen and Mucker. A lot of damage going down towards those tanks there in that middle part of the map. And Utopia, they committed those FE215Bs just to kill Isne. Now they're sort of out of things. They've got to regroup and come back. Kazna bought themselves some time. Hallucinogen still taking damage from the back. Vetso peeking that corner really, really nicely. But here's going to be a main brawl in towards the middle of the map as well. Nexus is going to get jumped on as well. Kazna have split their forces in a very, very bad way. And Nexus will be seconds from dropping here. He's a one-shot. Hyper really can't do much, but sort of wave goodbye to his friend as Nexus is facing his maker right now. He will drop down. Utopia have the advantage here in tanks and in health points. Eurofish is going to try and come around behind Hyper, but these tanks on the high ground, Decker and Wicked, they can't be fired on by Kazna right now. They're too high up. They don't have the elevation to make those shots here, but Eurofish does connect the important ones. He gets on towards one of those Utopia tanks. Muka, though, coming around from the side as well. He's already fired a shot. Utopia are all over this one like moss on a rock.
This is classic Utopia. I mean, get the cap underway, put the pressure on the other team, force a move out of them, and then just react perfectly. Yeah, this is the thing I said about Utopia last season as well. It's like, they're so predictable in everything they do, and the attack lineups they pick, but they simply get it done. They make it work.
Do make it work indeed, but Kazna now really just struggling. This is not good news at all. Utopia, like you said, we know exactly what they're going to go for here. It doesn't matter if the team knows what they eat for breakfast, because they're still going to struggle up against a very tried and true strategy coming out there from Utopia. Ghost Town definitely continuing to look like their home ground there. They played that one so effortlessly. Yeah. Again, another attacking round win for them here over these 2 maps that we've seen. And Kazna, don't know about their setup there at all. I mean, maybe you can shed some light on this for us as well, because it definitely seemed like they were never really settled. They were always having to be reactive to what Utopia were doing.
Yeah, I think, first of all, they put so much pressure on themselves because they stopped to kill Shukyu. It was a massive deal. I mean, the problem here is this point. You can see that Yizny has already fallen. Like, Yizny did 758 damage at this point. He was on his own. He had fallen, and that's already given Utopia a significant lead going forwards. Then you can see Nexus is completely on his own, and, you know, easy logical move for Utopia. Just go and take down Nexus, and that's 2 tier 10 tanks down already. Pressure still on in the cap. And it's game over by this point, I think.
Nexus had company, and he had friends there as well. The 50B of Stefan actually opted to move away from Nexus and go get that off angle towards Hallucinogen, who was capping. He did stop the cap as well, but leaving Nexus on his own was a bad idea. And Nexus as well probably should have known what could potentially have happened. He saw the FVs come past him as they chased towards Isne, I think, who was sent to try and get the reset himself. So he's like, okay, they could come back for me, and I'm still sitting here on my own. I don't have anyone with me. But this is what I said before. to make quick maneuvers is very, very hard on Ghost Town with these heavy tanks. It's quite possible that Nexus was like, well, I actually could be screwed here because
he should have had a T54 with him or a 50B, so someone with him because he had the higher ground at the end of the day. Then you have a 2 versus 3 or 2 versus 4 situation, but then you can send tanks behind, and you send your Vetso, and you just need to go into the Vetso and Hyber to go into the cap with the T54s, and then you can get the cap done and dusted because you got Utopia in a situation which they're committing tanks. But, at the end of the day, if Utopia just pushing forwards, putting resources into situations, getting over matches, while also having 2 tanks just basically doing nothing in the cap, apart from putting a little bit of pressure on, then you got a bad situation for your team.
Now, you did mention that maybe Nexus could have used having that 54 with him in that situation.
Yeah.
Hyber was sort of just tucked around the corner, and he got there a little bit late. I mean, if you're in Nexus's position and those FV215Bs come past you, do you push up and get shots towards their rear, or do you come back and hope the Hyber's just with you in any case? I mean, what's the correct decision from there as well when you've seen the enemy make such a big movement of tanks?
I think it's better just to go and help your team because often you get the first reset, that's enough. You got the first reset, Yizny had done his job. It's more about thinking, okay, so we're probably going to lose this on tanks in terms of damage more than on the cap, especially because there was enough tanks there. There's the T54 there just to get the last second reset. Just seemed a little bit segregated, fragmented perhaps from Kazna crew in that round. But yeah, it's such a quick and fast reactive game right now. Anything can happen.
Yeah, you're right. Anything could happen. And that also means that Kazna could get around back here as well. Or will it be Utopia to get out in front? These teams seem to have their maps that they prefer, but Utopia showed, made a statement towards Kazna saying, we know you picked Murovanka, but we're going to show you a damn good attacking side. And they definitely did add that. So Kazna crew now are on the back foot. They're forced to respond. I mean, it's Utopia setting the pace here, and Kazna crew have to keep up. If they don't, they're going to fall behind not only metaphorically, but also in score. And that's definitely not something you want to do now, of course, as we do run this over multiple different maps. Still another Ghost Town map left, of course, and Kazna crew now have to attack. The risk, of course, is it's much greater for them now as they need to make the first moves. They need to come forward. They need to make something happen here, and they need to punish Utopia for actually trying to stop that. But here's the push here as well. Vetso in a bat chat this time. He's gone off the 54. Going to be accompanied by Eurofish and Alien on the first push here. Kazna crew going north and towards the west as well.
Yeah, I don't think Kazna crew is going to go for that one cap. You can see the 50Bs already there. And Kazna crew, when they did play this map, played towards the middle a lot. But I think Utopia definitely were unarguably the kings on Ghost Town. They've won so many weird and wonderful situations where they were behind. And they're truly a formidable team. I think it's quite a lot of it willful ignorance, for instance, from Synergy, just to say, okay, we're going to let Utopia pick this one. But Nexus again gets caught out, but some good side shots.
Some side shots in towards Wicked, and that Nexus just being the bait here as well, backing up in an IS-7. But he did take quite a considerable amount of damage. But that FB215B of Shukyu was on fire for a moment there as well. Crippled quite heavily, so he's had to just back right on up there. Utopia, having been drawn forward a long way in this situation, and you can see on the western side of the map, Vetso is on the chase. He's looking for Papa. His first shot connects, and this guy really doesn't miss as well. Vetso, such a clever player, very, very good mechanically, and not a player to really make mistakes.
These 2 tanks as well. That's the problem. But Vetso's obviously got the damage. Papa's a 2-shot now.
Great little catch there as well, and I think it was even Isne or someone, I'm not even sure. Eurofish there getting their help on the shot there. So, big tank taken off the map here for Utopia, but Nexus is very, very low. Remember, he was being used as the bait earlier on. Now is just around the corner. Utopia, they realise they need to push forward. This is what I like about this team. They know when they can't afford to just jockey back and forth and let things happen. They're going to try and take this game into their own hands. They're sticking together, and E100 letting rip there with the 155mm. Yep. Very, very nice sound there as well. But look at all the side shots coming in.
Yeah, I mean, here's the problem right now for Utopia. They know they need to push forward to get a tank back in towards them, but they know as well that Vetso is, once he comes off reload, is going to be right behind them. And this is all about getting advantage before Vetso can get back in the game.
Eurofish is caught out on his own there as well. Great little pick from Utopia. They push forward, they found the player on his own, but the same might happen to Wicked in just a second if Alien uncharacteristically hadn't missed that shot. Credit to Nexus, who is still alive somehow, some way. But now Muka, it's field day for Alien. He's going to focus on towards him. And Utopia are so clever at finding these isolated players of Kazna crew. They're keeping themselves in this one here, even though they are down that one tank. Bishu, Deku, and Muka are still healthy. They've been hunting. They've been moving in those heavy tanks and actually chasing people down here. Alien, that's one way to go. I'll give you the big tip. Forbidden picks him up there with that E100, evening things up just that little bit more. And Kazna crew, still need to attack. They still need to come forward here, and Utopia are going to make it very, very hard for Kazna to pick off single tanks when they all move together like this.
Again, the problem for Utopia is that as soon as Vetso gets in the game, Utopia is already going to lose a tank, so they need to take one in this push.
Hyber now taking a fair bit of damage there as well. Nexus not in the ideal position to actually help. He's actually going to back around the corner. He realizes he might be in a bit of trouble here. This is perfect for Utopia. They've found those tanks. Bishu takes a hit there coming in, but look at the double tap in response. Stefan takes it to the face. Vetso, though, he's in the game now. Like you said, he can take down this E100. He looks for him as well. I think there was an automatic fire extinguisher going off. I'm not sure. A second hit towards Forbidden. But Vetso now has to make these shots count. Bishu, Adecha, and also Muka looking very, very healthy right now. And Vetso, he was supposed to be the cavalry, but now he's the one fleeing with his tail between his legs. He's on reload now as well, and he's caught. The track was devastating for the man, losing half his health in just a few seconds. And Utopia now with very, very strong hold. I love the way they play these heavies. Really, it's a masterclass. And just Stefan and Isne left. Stefan's loaded. Isne is not.
Yeah, Vetso gets pretty unlucky there. If he had escaped, it would have been game over for Utopia. But with a brilliant track, Utopia managed to stay in the game. And yeah, these three tanks, not particularly healthy. Bishu a 2-shot. Desha is a 2-shot. But that's the thing. I mean, they are 2 shots, or Desha's a 3-shot technically. But, you know, they are 2 shots. They're not 1 shot. So, you know, Utopia are quite clearly right now winning this game, despite the fact that Kazna Crew got such an early advantage with a TFT4 kill and with a lot of good early damage. But Utopia's just been going forwards. They've been choosing their targets, and Kazna Crew's just been slipping.
Stefan now hoping to make the difference here. I don't think he's going to see a whole lot in this corner. Those pips, by the way, are the pings coming out from Utopia and Kazna Crew. So that's just how much they're pinging from Kazna Crew. That's how much they're pinging their mini-map here. So you have an idea of exactly how maybe stressed out or frantic they are right now. Stefan's hoping for a flank here. But Utopia have set up now a bit of a 3-cornered formation in the middle of the map. That's very, very hard to shake. Perfect defensive setup here. So Isne is going to go tickle that cap. Going to force some movements out here from them. Has to stay safe, but he has to hope that Stefan can also get involved as well. This could be quite tricky to work out because Utopia could go at this from a few different angles, and Isne just has to hope that his teammate's going to be there to put some damage down and make them pay for this. Yeah,
and Stefan gets pretty lucky. He doesn't get spotted by Muka as he goes across, but I think Stefan might find a kill.
Muka with his back turn. Very, very bad position to be in when you've got a 50B just banging it on towards you, but 2 shots coming towards him. The tanks were there. They were ready. Decker now going to be hoping to get a shot towards Stefan. He's low. He does get the kill, but no bullets left. It's a 2v2 now. 4 minutes and 38 seconds, but Muka will get the finish. He comes around the corner and says, I see what you did there, but it's not going to be enough to keep you alive. All the rest of your team in this one now is Isne. Is a 1-shot to either of these 2 tanks. There's plenty of shots to make here, but with how close together those other 2 are sticking, it's going to have to be an absolute brilliant work to get this done. It's a 1390 as well. Firing APCR. Not bad, but not good enough as Bishu sends it back in. Kazna Crew fall to a deficit of 2 rounds. Ghost Town definitely working out here for Utopia.
Yeah, because Utopia just the kings of Ghost Town. They always have been. I think they always will be. Just brilliant heavy tank players, always going forwards, always willing to go for those engagements. And some of that individual play, specifically from Bishu, 3.8k damage in that T110E5. Fantastic, amazing flick shots, amazing individual performances, and you know Stefan, he did 4,100 damage in this 50B, and Vetso not too far behind with 3,000 damage on his own. But again, you know, this is the thing. Utopia's just driving forwards. They don't have no respect for Kazna Crew right now. They're going forwards in these situations. You know, Kazna took down that T-54 lightweight early on. They said, I don't care. I'm going to find a Kazna Crew tank I want to kill, and they're going to kill it. And they take down Eurofish, and that's a big point here. Wicked falls, but Elian dies as well to an E100 hit in the top of the turret.
Pushes so far forward. You can see Forbidden just lines him up as well. 1,900 damage taken off him in a very, very short space of time there. And that really put him behind the 8 ball. Maybe he shouldn't have pushed so far forward. Maybe he should have been happy just to get that amount of damage done to that Utopia tank and then back up and actually preserve his health pool for a little bit longer. Yeah, you can see here the shot comes in. I mean, it was so unnecessary from Elian to make that peek there. He knew where the tanks were, and I mean, the FE215B, I said it yesterday, it's not impossible to penetrate in the turret. It does happen quite a lot, especially with these higher penetration guns. And then that's basically opened it up for those 2 T110s just to push around that corner and to take down that tank of Nexus, I think it was. Now, Kazna Crew came into this match with a very, very strong vote, but I'm going to pass it over to Melian just to see exactly what's been happening now, or the buzz around this match, because Kazna Crew, well, they've already conceded far more rounds to Utopia than they did in their last outing against them.
than 0, right?
Exactly.
And community at home is voting 85% for Kazna Crew still. And as mentioned earlier, they're heading for a very close ending. So maybe Kazna Crew will come back, no one knows. The vote is closed, ladies and gentlemen, for this time. Well, no more chance to get involved. Besides on Twitter, we have a Twitter poll. I could actually look up what people on Twitter are saying as well. But in the meantime, head over to our Facebook page and wait for the next poll to appear. And it seems that... Oh well, now it wants me to sign up. Why doesn't everything work out the way I want to? Oh, that makes me sad. But well, maybe we'll update it later. That's 73% for Kazna Crew on Twitter as well.
Okay.
So still strongly behind Kazna Crew.
Interesting there. I mean, obviously, we're a little bit delayed as well, so we'll wait to see what sort of people are thinking here. But, I mean, you know, and Kazna Crew, you said we're heading towards a close finish, and you might be right. I mean, people might be voting for that as well. Like you said, Kazna Crew, I like them on open maps. I mean, Murovanka was a little bit disappointing from them here, but the next map's going to be Prohorovka, another map that we haven't seen. So perhaps people putting their chips behind Kazna Crew to bring it back on the open map as opposed to those city ones.
Absolutely, because people in chat seem very surprised about Utopia taking...
Yeah, so am I. So are we, of course, I'm sure now, as we're going to be heading into this one in just a few moments. Kazna Crew are down 3-1 up against Utopia, who are looking very, very good in this new look format. What are your predictions for this map?
Well, so far in this format, it's been about picking your map. We've seen a lot of teams go 2-0 on a map and then going 2-0 down and then going 2-0 the next map. So this is... the last map was Ghost Town, of course, Utopia's map pick. The previous it was Murovanka, which was Kazna. So now we're going to go on Prohorovka, which has been a shaky map for Kazna Crew. I think they've had quite a few bad results on this one, but I know it for sure suits Kazna Crew's playstyle because they're the faster lineups. They have the better players in those like faster tanks in those dynamic situations, whereas Utopia almost exclusively a heavy tank team. If they're not playing the heavy tanks, they're not playing well.
Well, you heard it from the man himself. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to dive deep into the map of Prohorovka. Well, you said Utopia are a heavy tank team. If they're not playing heavies, they're not playing well. And guess what? They're just going to play heavies.
Yeah, so that's typical Utopia. They love those heavy tanks, and they're so brilliant. I think they definitely struggled last season, as you said, 7th place. I mean, Kazna Crew with the 5th place is not that much different from them. And Utopia just traveling forwards. Good spots there for him. Yizny is going to come out any second now, and of course those STPs are deadly in this position. Yesterday we saw a similar situation. I think Synergy going up against out of range, and out of range just getting caught out pretty early on. But I've been in the situation time and time again. When those IS-7s can get to the F6 area, they are just impossible to get rid of.
And that's where they are right now. Kazna Crew are defending at least, so they can sort of sit back on this one, and there is going to be some commitment required from those, excuse me, very, very heavy tanks. Now, from Carmen as well. Carmen mentioned to me that he'd been practicing with out of range against Utopia on this map specifically, and he said they were crushed by Utopia playing in these really heavy lineups. He said out of range really struggled to find a counter to this or work around it, and if it works against out of range, who were looking quite good, Kazna, I mean, they might need to come up with something special as well. I mean, Carmen's a tactician. That's what he does. So, you know, Kazna Crew and, of course, Hyber at the helm need to come up with something good as well. Shuki, very cheeky spot there as well with a shot towards Isne. No risk of drowning, I think, with the water level that low. But look at that, Shuki being caught a little bit there. He might have had the timer on the drowning. I'm not sure at that sort of depth.
No, it's not drowning in that depth.
Okay. So, obviously, those waterways here in Prohorovka allow you to sort of get from A to B undetected. And Hyber's actually making his way across towards Shuki there as well. Some shots coming in towards him. Isne replying as well. Cheeky. Very cheeky.
Hyber's just going to go in and take down Shukyu. He knows he's gone at 2 shells left, and maybe even if Hyber gets a good roll, he'll only receive 1. No, he'll probably receive 2 here. But it's about keeping the rest of Utopia at bay.
Shukyu was aimed in there. He was in sniper mode. He was paying no attention towards Hyber coming towards him. Luckily, he still managed to make that shot, and Hyber does take the full amount there. As 420 comes across towards him. Now, Shukyu, very, very low. Isne bounces off the back of a bat jet. I don't know if you've ever seen that before, but Hyber should be able to get the finish, though. He's made to pay for this one here. Shukyu won't have his reload. He wants to keep Hyber as busy as possible. And for some reason, Hyber wants to back away.
I'm pretty sure.
Ah, that would explain it there. Slow reload. He's not going to repair that either.
I'm not sure if he's repaired it, but that was too slow for the STB1. Maybe he's repaired it twice. You know, I was playing the STB1 a lot in the last couple of weeks because I knew it was going to be used. And I find that, first of all, your driver gets taken out a lot because it's in the front of the tank, obviously. But everything else gets taken out as well pretty easily.
Now, while that fight was happening, Kazna crew have actually done fairly well across the battlefield here, putting a good amount of damage towards Utopia. Eurofish picks up Hallucinogen there, who was a little bit out in the open. So Utopia fancied themselves an attack towards this capture point number 2, but Kazna crew, they have the mobility here. They can respond to this stuff really easily, and Utopia have to commit a little bit more to those decisions. Now, Papa has gone up against Hyber there as well, and that reload is, oppressively long. Should be able to get the finish on towards his STB as he crests that hill. Hyber hoping to draw Papa into a position where a teammate could fire on him there, but it's going to be hard.
If E50's got a bad gun depression, it's also got a very weak turret.
Hyber still does go down to that E50, but Stefan responds on towards Decker. That's one of those IS-7s down. Bishu is still up. Muka gets on towards Eurofish, fighting over this train line here, getting a little bit hectic. It's Kazna crew now just backing up a little bit here, taking their foot off the gas, but they've done enough damage here right now to buy them definitely a sense of contentment, a bit of safety here now. And they're going to roll over and pick up Bishu here as well. Kazna crew looking far, far better on Prohorovka.
Yeah, a lot of different angles, a lot of individual plays as well. You had the kind of Stefan Alien crew, which is pretty much unstoppable, it seems. You had the Yizny and the Hyber crew as well. Yizny and Hyber, I think it was, yeah, in the STB1. They did well, and then you had the Vetso crew up north with Nexus. So a lot of different angles for Kazna crew, like you should play Prohorovka, secures them a win, bring it 3-2, still in favor of Utopia though.
Well, you know, I foreshadowed this with mentioning how out of range had sort of struggled to play up against this tactic in their practice game. So Kazna crew seem to have a good answer here as well. They definitely seem to have been able to outmaneuver up against Utopia here. Now, and these heavy tanks on Prohorovka, what are your thoughts, your impressions after seeing that game at least?
I think they can work. I mean, obviously you could see there when Kazna crew was coming from every angle, the gun depression and the STB and the rate of fire was just pounding those heavy tanks eventually. I think the problem was the early stage. I mean, Shuki was the highest damage dealer still in that bat chat. He pretty much hit all of his shells, 1.6k. But he was in a situation where Hyber was taking him down. Yizny was also there in the RU-251. I think some misplays by Kazna crew kind of gave him a little bit more damage he should. You know, Yizny shooting on the move with the 251 hits the track of the bat chat. I think also maybe an Amarak onto that STB didn't help at all. As you can see, Elian's loading a lot quicker than Hyber was reloading in the clip here. So he's super slow. He's got double reload, of course, for the Amarak. And yeah, but I think Kazna crew taking down that bat chat early on, it basically stopped Utopia from coming from multiple angles, and also pushing Utopia across the tracks, retracting back from when they were up the north and just coming into the middle. That middle play is so important for these teams.
Absolutely. Those IS-7s, like you said, very, very hard to get out of that E6 sort of area, but the problem is that Utopia kind of had to leave that area. They went there to start with, but they had to attack. They had to get across the train line and head towards one of those cap points, and Kazna crew at least were able to sort of surround them, come from a few different angles, and like you pointed out there as well, Hyber managed to hold on there for quite a long time. Kazna now moved to the attacking side of things, and do you feel like defense benefits Utopia here more with the more static style that they like to play?
I honestly think on Prohorovka, attack and defense is almost negated. The only difference is how fast you get into the middle. Maybe Kazna crew is going to go for that left side, but I think yesterday we saw, or at least in 754 when Prokhorov was here, it was all about those middle engagements, who played better there. Maybe artillery is going to be picked up. I don't think so. Both these two teams not going for that one. So I think this is again going to be about those individual plays, the positioning of the tanks, the groups, the wolf packs, and attack and defense is not going to play a significant role. Maybe Kazna going for 2-cap for a little bit, but again, not that hard to decap, as you can just peek up. One tank needs to peek from the north or the south. So as long as you get in the position, unlike yesterday we saw, quickly enough without a range, you can get it.
Well, let's see if Kazna crew can get it here, of course, because Utopia have been able to sneak rounds away from them on their map already on Murovanka. If they do it here again, it'll put them to match point. and that will be heading in towards Utopia's pick here. So not a good situation for Kazna. Great chance for them here to make up some more points, make up some rounds, and take it to 3-3 and really make that next map an interesting one in terms of whether we'll see a tiebreaker off the back of it here. But Prohorovka was still there. Kazna crew coming forward and it had to be attacking this time. And, well, it does seem that Utopia have gone for a little bit more of a flexible lineup here. Some more of those medium tanks in the mix here. Not such a heavy core. Maybe a bit of an adaptation for them this time.
Yeah, they've gone for the double IS-7, interestingly. See how it works out. Double E50 still, great rate of fire, that tank, great sniper. But Kazna crew sticking to their guns with the STBs, I think probably we'll see that's where the meta's going to go. A lot of the teams seem to be using the STB-1. I saw in the training rooms as well, I saw Synergy using the STBs a couple of weeks ago. So I wouldn't be surprised. Looks like Utopia going for that left side. A little bit unusual, but I guess with the slower E50s and also with the IS-7s, maybe their only option. They don't want to challenge Kazna crew in the middle, even though statistically they have the faster route there.
Utopia filtering now from north to south across that train line here. When Kazna spreading out a bit as well, they're going to use this western side of the map here. A good amount of cover from these trees, the shrubbery, and a few undulations there as well. Hyber cannot be detected now. Of course, you see him moving there in between two hills. So there's STB still here being employed quite extensively by Kazna crew. They definitely favour the mobility and the amount of damage they can put down with them. Gorgeous tanks. I mean, really, if you think about their stats, they just really, you can't go past them, especially on a map like Prohorovka. But they're grouping up here. I see. You might push that RU-251 towards that cap to start it off and then have a bit of a firing squad. Yep, this is 1200 efficiency analysis coming right at you. I see they're going to set up here for some shots. Yeah, so 251 ESD can go into the cap. There's actually a bush there, but the thing is that you see that slight dip before the cap. It's not that big, so if ESD does go for it, it doesn't really take that much for a team just to poke over and spot him, so it'll be risky for him. I think, Kazna might sit here for a bit, see if they can tease Utopia across the middle of the map. If not, I mean, they really do have the options of going north or south. A lot of the teams in 742 and 754, just going straight through the middle where you see the F line, E line, can be quite effective. You get into hull down position, you use your tanks from the north and south to shoot anything that peeks over, and you just try and do as much damage as you can. But, without artillery, both these teams going without artillery, I think if Kazna could go for it again, they might pick it up, since it's quite a healthy lineup from Utopia, quite a heavy lineup, and quite a static tactic altogether. Shuki now is just taking his time as he's working on towards this train line. Very much a line of scrimmage being drawn straight down the middle of this map here as Isne wants to just forge ahead and get some information here. One little rollover will reveal a decent amount of these tanks here for Utopia. However, they are all quite close together. Some are obscured by buildings and other greenery. So Isne is a little bit concerned about what he may be putting himself into here as well. Now, no one proxy spotting him through the train line. He knows that for a fact. By the same token, he's not spotting anyone as well. So slowly but surely, he will get a bit more brave as he looks towards this shots here. He's sitting up on top as well now. Not spotted yet, of course, but look at, you can see his turret was in his direction for a moment there. Hard to say what Isne has actually really seen or how he's going to act on this information now. Is Elian also going to come up?
Well, he's just spotting for Elian. He's got coated optics, so he's got the 10% plus view range, but Elian just gets to receive the shell there. He's got to be careful. STB-1, not particularly sneaky tank. But this is classic play, Kazna getting a base of defense, going towards the STBs, and just starting to pressure Utopia. I mean, Utopia clearly not moving at this point. Their two fastest tanks are down south. But typically when we've seen this tactic work, it has worked in the way Kazna crew is playing it.
And now Kazna crew have to know that a lot of Utopia's tanks are concentrated towards the middle of the map, and it's actually the easiest point on the map to cross the train track because it's all flat ground there as well. There's no real hill to cross, so if Utopia want to challenge this cap, they're going to be in a position to do so. But Kazna is still going to start this one off here. They must be confident that they have a good firing squad, a good set defense to play into Utopia as they do crest over that train line eventually.
I think Shuki was actually going forwards from south to north to try and just blitz Elian or Yizny down. I think that would have been too successful because they did reduce the height of the mound that is on A6, P6. So you can get taken down from where Elian is or Stefan is, but Shuku having a little peek, and yeah, the cap's in the way. This is kind of like a step style tactic where you're putting some pressure on in the cap. You've got a bush in front of you to make sure you can't get shot from the middle. And you say, okay, come forward to the other team.
not only can Utopia have to the thing is they could take blind shots here, right, like we see on steps, but they have to commit so much more to actually take those blind shots. They have to roll over the top of this train track here, so far more dangerous situation than if you had a good hull down tank that could do it from, I guess, the other side of a valley here. You see, look how exposed Shukyu is. Just for poking over the top, he's shown his whole tank. It's not like a T-32 can just nuzzle up there and see what's happening. So to check the position of that capping tank requires a lot more of a commitment. And you see Utopia know that. They understand that. They know they have to follow it up completely. Alien getting crunched there as well. Some good shots in towards him now. Izne's been spooked. He's moving his way off the cap here. But at least Utopia have been drawn forward into this first little undulation.
Yeah, Utopia have been put into a bit of an awkward position. But to be honest, Kazna crew haven't really done much. I mean, they haven't done any damage to those tanks going forwards. Alien, the static tank, who was supposed to get the first shot off, got 744 damage towards him, so Utopia are playing this well.
And now Vetso and Eurofish wondering how they might be able to spread around this and actually pincer maneuver might be okay, or at least to flank through the middle. Obviously, in the middle of the map, you can use that higher ground to take some shots down, and the enemy can't actually see that you've pushed all your tanks there. So this could be a little bit of a trap that they're going to try and spring towards Utopia. But bear in mind, Utopia have Shukyu and Bishu there in the middle of the map, and that's a brilliant shot. Look at Muka. What a great position from him now. Not only has he spotted out that maneuver from Kazna crew, but he's also been able to do some damage, and this might be very, very dangerous here for the Punishment crew.
Yeah, this is really risky. I mean, there's two STBs going forwards. Shukyu's probably going to join in. They're just probably going to push towards them. Honestly, don't see Kazna getting away with this.
Hyber now going to get absolutely chunked down. I mean, that's probably about the complete opposite of getting away with it there, as he's left with just a little bit of health. 18, in fact, a strong wind, in fact, a light wind to blow him over right now. Forbidden has to ignore the damage coming in from behind as he tries to go over the hill, but he stopped dead in his tracks. It almost looked like his engine was taken out. He went very, very low. Don't really understand that positioning there as well. He's had to offer himself up, and Kazna might be able to make some back here as well. Giving Forbidden for nothing might be all they need to propel themselves into the later part of this round now. Vetso dealing with Papa and Decker coming in towards him. Bishu takes some shots in there from the middle of the map here. Vetso's been caught out a little bit, but Papa now realizes there are still players over in the periphery, in the background, to take these shots. Vetso living dangerously in the middle of the map still, but he's done so much damage. He's done so much work here for Kazna, and Utopia have hardly any health points to work with anymore.
Alien and Eurofish has just been absolute beasts. They just took care of everything Utopia put in the middle. Truly fantastic stuff, and also Yizny was in the background in the 251, but I would love to see how much damage Alien is doing after this round, because he was just pounding the IS-7s. And maybe Kazna crew were fully aware that if Utopia did decide to push through, we've got Alien and Yizny in the background to make the shots. And yeah, okay, the bait is going to be those two STPs going forwards, but if they do, if Utopia do go forwards, they're going to receive a lot of shells from behind the side, and eventually those STPs are going to go over and take down the lone one.
I mean, you can just see how hard it is to penetrate the armor of an IS-7. That thing is formidable. But from multiple angles, Bishu is eventually going to get chunked down. There's a shot from Alien being absorbed by the tracks there as well. He will have another reload here. Bishu will have one last chance to make a shot, but he will get taken down there as well. A couple of weak spots at the front of that IS-7. You can see Alien knows exactly where to fire, of course, a veteran of countless battles himself. Kazna crew have done it. They get their map pick. They get 2 rounds on it now. We are back to an even playing field heading into our 4th here. Very impressive stuff from them there. And there's actually a lot to talk about in this round, which is good, because Kazna crew put that RU-251 on that cap to start with, and this is drawn Utopia now. I guess they've committed in one way across the train line. What was the move there from Kazna crew to really close it out?
Well, I think the move actually came from Utopia, because Utopia realized that if they let the 2 STBs just go and take down their STB, I think it was Mucka, that would be game over basically, because they already lost a tier 10 tank, which doesn't make as much of a difference than M54 losing a tier tank, but it makes enough of a difference. And also with those 2 STBs being in that position, could have been risky. They could have been able to make some great shots and pincer maneuver, having different angles. But yeah, I think maybe a risky move from. A pretty slow move as well from Utopia to push across the middle of the IS-7s, and I think one of them just got wrecked straight away. I think Forbidden got taken down in the IS-7 straight away. It did 457 damage this round, and then the second one went down really quickly. No, that was, just Forbidden went down, and then it was an STB1 that went down. And 2 tanks immediate loss for Utopia because of Eurofish and Alien and Yizny. And that's going to be impossible to come back from. Eurofish doing 3.3k damage, Nexus doing 2.6k damage, and truly fantastic work from Kazna crew, and Hyper, using IS-7 well. But I think Alien maybe should have done a little bit more, but it's hard at this range when you're using heat ammo.
You threw your hands up in the air now when Forbidden came across and got shut down like this as well.
Yeah, I mean, he's getting taken from... The thing is, interesting, Nexus and Eurofish don't push over to take down Mucka. They know they can secure him anytime they want because he's a one-shot. So the interesting thing is that they just stop, turn, and they use Vetso, Stefan to kind of keep those 3 tanks that are pushing forwards for Utopia in their place. And, yeah, just use Eurofish to take them down one by one. And the E50s are just... They're super easy, a hot knife through butter when it comes to attacking movements.
Very interesting stuff there as well. Kazna crew forcing some movements here. And a common trend we're seeing in a lot of these tanks is that teams are wanting to bait out moves from the defensive sides. No longer is the defensive side such a favourable one as well, because at one point or another you're going to be forced to actually pick up your bollocks and come forward. You can't sit back and erect some very impressive sort of defense with all your guns pointing in the right directions, because you need to take the fight to the enemy at some point. The features, the terrain of these maps does require you to actually change your vantage point. And of course, with these fairly mobile tanks that we're still seeing at tier 10, teams can change their strategy quite quickly if they want to. So, Kazna crew. Open maps. We sort of pipped them to that one. I mean, this is almost a quintessential, a team that favours those city maps against the team that favours those open maps as well. Kazna have always been so good at it. Yeah. And of course, Utopia now are going to be pretty happy with this next map pick. It's going to be Himmelsdorf, and they absolutely love this one as well. They've just picked all heavy maps here as well. And Kazna crew, they're in danger here as well, because one win for either team will bring this one to match point as well. That's how close things are. But when you favour Utopia like we do on these close quarter maps, you've got to be a little bit concerned for Kazna crew. Yeah,
I mean, Kazna crew banned Himmelsdorf every single time last season. One time they played it because they didn't realize what the tiebreaker was. They lost to Virtus Pro. So, yeah, this could be hard for them.
Ladies and gentlemen, time to take a look at Himmelsdorf. Good point that you brought up there about Kazna crew and Himmelsdorf. They absolutely freaking hate this map, and it just doesn't work for them, unfortunately. It just doesn't lend itself to their playstyle, but they're still going to try and lend themselves to it.
They picked it, though. That's a weird thing. I mean, I think they picked it, at least.
They picked Proc and Murovanka.
No, my bad. Utopia picked Prohorovka, and Kazna picked Himmelsdorf. I mean, it makes sense if we think about it in some respects, because you said Out of Range have been training against Utopia and Prohorovka.
True.
And they've been doing well, so maybe that's why they picked it up. And I mean, at the end of the day, Himmelsdorf was just Kazna crew has got to bite the bullet and actually train Himmelsdorf and become a good team in it if they want to be successful.
The teams with the deepest map pools generally end up being the most successful here. And Kazna crew lending themselves to this one as well with those big tanks. Eurofish on an E100, Nexus and Alien with FV215Bs, Hybrid and IS7, Stefan on a 50B, and of course a Batchat for Vetso, leaving Isne on that 3090.
Yeah, so a lot of heavy tanks, obviously, this being Himmelsdorf. I mean, this is, I think, something we're going to be seeing more of. We saw on Ghost Town, we saw yesterday, the 50Bs plus the FV215Bs. So you got the 50Bs for the burst damage, 24-second reload, 23-second reload with all your crews and everything, 1.6k burst damage. And so you can really pump out as much as you want in a very, very short space of time, like 2 seconds between shots. And then you got the FV215B, a lot of HP, can still bounce a lot, and a great DPM. But look at that shot, a very low damage roll from Eurofish, 622, 750 average, but Desha still getting pretty heavily tagged up.
Now, sitting on that corner as well, I mean, is a good spot there for an E100, of course, with the armor, and he can sort of angle himself. Where are you trying to fire on that E100 to actually really penetrate your shots?
Well, it's an IS-4, so it's heat ammo, I believe. Yeah, it's heat ammo, so you can penetrate the turret. You can penetrate the lower glaciers as well. But I mean, this is the great thing about the FV215B. It's APCR, so you can penetrate reliably the turret of the E100, unless you don't, as long as you don't shoot the top of it or the extremities of it, closer to the mantle. As long as you shoot the 2 sides, you're fine. So, yeah, I mean, E100 is not a problem to penetrate. IS-4, as long as you're shooting the superstructure, not the turret, you can do okay. It's really quite actually easy to penetrate. It's occasional problems, but it's not a pike nose like the IS-3.
That's right. There's not that angling in 2 dimensions like the IS-3 does have. So the Eurofish there, I mean, the bonus of that E100, of course, is just the pure amount of health it has. So Eurofish backing himself in the long run to win out on that one. Kazna crew are attacking here now. So, you know, unlike a lot of teams, they haven't really shown any... Oh, my God. They haven't really shown any inclination to push towards that 8 line here. Decker still, for some reason, wants to poke towards Eurofish now. He can't do it anymore.
Did he poke then?
I think so. He has been poking, that's the thing.
But he's reverse side scraping, which is, of course, the right thing to do on your IS-4. I think that maybe a couple of shells went through the top of the turret, which is obviously where you aim on the IS-3 when you're reverse side scraping. With Decker, with a flick shot there, he was in a perfect position as well. He was in an absolute perfect position in a perfect side scrape. But no respect from Eurofish.
That's pretty beastly from the man. I enjoy that immensely.
I think he just used HE. I mean, at the end of the day, he knew he'd already hit the shells he needed to do. Loads HE, and I think it's an easy shot for him.
All right, so now up on the hill. UTOPIA still challenging them with 3 tanks, and Kazna crew haven't quite decided where they want to go yet, but I mean, Eurofish has sustained a small amount of damage considering that he's actually been able to get rid of Decker already, so that's big. That's a big advantage for Kazna crew to come forward now, and UTOPIA feeling like it's time to go themselves. They want to go towards this hill, and some shots are coming in towards Vetso, none already hitting, and Kazna crew winning out in those damage trades here. Maybe Kazna crew have finally shaken that Himmelsdorf monkey off of their back. And are starting to really enjoy this one here. So far, I wouldn't be too worried if I was them now. They're pushing the IS-7 and E100 down, that's 8 line. Good move from them. I mean, you can't really fault them. Now they've dealt with the tank that's been waiting for them. They can gain position without taking damage here. Things seem to be falling into place, at least in this early stage.
Well, Kazna saw 2 tier 10s, 1 tier 8, so they've already got 3 tier 10s, so they got the overmatch there. And also, obviously, UTOPIA had two autoloaders, whereas Kazna had the FE215B, so they were definitely able to win that engagement. So this is UTOPIA really having to play defensively and just hope that Kazna crew screw up.
Hallucinogen takes a hit as well now, and you can see a little bit of uncertainty coming out here for UTOPIA's Hallucinogen is caught, and there are shots coming in from the top of that hill. So deadly. Here's the bat chat. From that range, even can make those shots, and Nexus is going to catch Hallucinogen in there. That's really bad. He's caught out in the open. He knows he has to deal with one or the other, and at least it looks like he fancies his luck a little bit more against Nexus here as well, but Nexus is healthy.
UTOPIA actually pushing forwards along the 8 line. They want to try and take down Eurofish.
Eurofish is going to get pushed onto, just like you said here. There's a lot of tanks coming towards him. It's a great way to deal with an E100. They saw that opportunity. They took it. But Hallucinogen still went down in the middle of the map here as well. So UTOPIA, they're trying to make things happen, but maybe they're already too far in the hole. They might try and find Nexus on his own now. This is a defensive team on the defensive side, pushing forward. As Hyber's found a fight against Wicked now. It's a 2v1 as Shulky comes in from behind here. Hyber hoping to back up in such a way that he won't be able to get shot. Should be right in this 1v1 here, really. This is strange stuff. Is the 39 of Isne is up towards the north as well. He can come and get some flanking shots in.
Yeah, Wicked will get taken down by Yezdi easily in the MX-1390, and Hyber, of course, will be in the background. So it's really about the fight that's happening over towards the south.
The fight is going to be a very, very important one there as well, as I'm sure we'll go there in a second. It's Muka now having to back up as Stefan getting aggressive towards him. He's on reload as well. He's a non-factor at this stage. And Shulky surrounded by both Vetso and Stefan. They have autoloader shots and they're not willing to, and they're not afraid to use them, sorry. Bisu forward. Nexus will have a reload in just a second here. And UTOPIA, on what I would normally call their home map, are getting completely picked apart by Kazna crew, who just seem to have their measures so beautifully.
Yeah, they really did manage to counter UTOPIA on every single front on the hill. They managed to counter them. Eurofish definitely with the openings. I mean, you can never fault a guy like that when he's making those shots against Desha in the IS-4. Desha's side scraping is simply not working out, and this is the thing, right? If you're going to play the time game against the E100, it can load HE, and 950 average damage on HE. You can do like 300-400 damage per shell even with HE against the IS-4. So eventually you're going to get taken down. So, it's a hard move to make.
High caliber HE shells really do hurt. Muka fancies himself one against Stefan, but he's missed 2 shots, squandered them. He could have actually had the 1v1 there. He might have had enough to finish him off, but now Stefan, he'll be off reload first, and Muka realizes that he stepped in some Muka. And that's it, Kazna crew there with 5k HP still coming out on top. And this is match point now for them, so going very, very close. Impressive stuff by Kazna crew as well. Rewriting the history books, of course, in terms of their performances on Himmelsdorf in the past.
Yeah, they seem to have got their act together. They had a lot of interesting ideas. As I said, Desha going down the IS-4 gave Eurofish that ability to go forwards, being a kind of single-man squad. I think he was doing damage against Muka as well. And then you had that situation on the hill where UTOPIA kind of flexed forwards with the 250Bs and the T-54 lightweight, trying to get up that hill. And they realized quickly that there's 3 tier 10 tanks up on there, and also, 1 FE215B, so they would have got taken down. And Kazna realized immediately, hey, look, they know that they can't egress onto the hill, so we can go forwards, we can take the hill dominance. That means we've got middle as well. It means that we can really push off the hill whenever we want. And then Hyber goes forwards, A little bit missed timing between Hyber and Yizny for sure in the AMX 1390, but they get it done against Wicked.
No, they do. They can take a bit of damage with that. And this 1v1 as well. Really, I feel like it set the pace and set the tone for the rest of this round here. Losing Decker, who, honestly, like you said, reverse side scrape. Look where his gun's pointing as well. Not even towards Eurofish here. He's looking towards something else. So he was feeling safe in this situation. He was feeling content. You see him just roll back slightly there as well. His health bar just shifting a little bit. So he's moving a little bit, but Eurofish takes his shot so well. I think it was only maybe one shot that didn't penetrate there. Very, very important work from him as well. And Eurofish, you know, sometimes a player who can be the orchestrator of some big errors for Kazna crew. A player that, you know, not unlike FKK Schnitzel, sometimes is a little bit hasty and rash in his movements here. But this is just a great example of good concentration and experience really winning out.
Yeah, you can see Desha's flexing, you know, uncomfortably. I guess Eurofish is aiming for the front and back of those flywheels, the two wheels are sitting there, and you can see just hit straight in the front of the tank. Fantastic thing. I really wish we had a feature so we can follow the shells and see exactly where they penetrate and where they hit. That'll be truly fantastic. But interestingly enough, I mean, E100 was, you know, one of the first tier 10 tank I fully I free experienced complete because I thought it would be insane. It was insane in the beginning because it had this spaced armor which basically didn't exist in the game properly, and you could absorb artillery shells. I think if that feature still existed, we might even see like E100s on Prohorovka because they can really do the work.
They were that go-to tank as well. I mean, when I started playing the game as well, people always said, yeah, maybe just go towards the E100 as well and work your way up through that line. I said, stuff you on playing the Batchan. So that was how that one went down as well. But definitely a very robust tank. Obviously, like you pointed out, its armor maybe isn't the defining feature of it anymore. It's more that the health point total and, of course, the average damage that it can hit with that gun. Very, very, very high caliber weapon. Now, Kazna crew starting nicely here. That was their attacking side there. That was Kazna on the attack. Didn't really have to attack at all because Utopia got cold feet and just sort of went for it.
Yeah, they definitely do, and they reacted like they did on Ghost Town, but of course Ghost Town's a different map where you can just pick those fights, get those engagements, and not necessarily have to worry about, you know, the consequences of it because you're going to be getting yourself into a better position, getting the overmatches quickly. But anyway, Kazna now statistically have the 10% easier side, which is the defensive side on Himmelsdorf. They are match point 4-3 right now after a good comeback on a pretty disastrous Ghost Town. So the pressure's on.
Absolutely. Let's see if Utopia can withstand that, or will they crumble and buckle under it as Kazna continue to try and apply these shots to their weak points now. Utopia have to attack. In these tanks, they're going with a lot of FV215Bs here as well. Desha still in the IS-4. And a couple of 50Bs thrown in the mix as well. It's a lightweight as well for Papa. Pick at that 54. And there's Vetso rattling his way across the middle of the map there as well. 50 Bs here for Stefan and Neurofish. I'll be interested to see how this defense is sort of put together. Vetso seems to want to go to the proxy spot corner there as well, and rightly so, I guess. He'll be able to spot out Desha almost permanently.
It's going to be a real pain in the backside here for Utopia because he's going to spot that 8 line, keep Utopia from going along the 8 line, which is of course a good counter to what Kazna's doing across the 1-3 line. But I like the way Utopia is just sitting back, being patient, taking the hill, just playing it strategically, not reacting too quickly, and just playing it patiently.
Hyber in that T30 as well. So a tank even at tier 9 that can put out a disgusting amount of damage. It's a tank destroyer, even though it doesn't look like one. It is. Take my word for it. Eurofish and Stefan. Eurofish has already let all of his shots go, and actually he's left Wicked quite badly brutalized there. Utopia sitting really far back here as well, back in towards the corner. They don't have a lot of information. They know that Kazna have tanks out on towards the western side. They also know there's at least a bat chat there on the 8 line. And the T30 of Hyber as well is going to be a good deterrent, I think, if they want to try and push down on that one. Very well armored turret. Insanely good on those American heavies. T10 for Isne.
Yeah, the renamed IS-8. And remodeled slightly.
That does look a little bit different.
Yeah, I mean, it's a nice tank. I hated the IS-8 personally, but in this kind of situation where you might need a little bit more flexibility around the map, a bit of speed, possibility for some weird bounces as well, it's good to play.
Well, obviously, the one Swedish inclusion there for Kazna Crew has actually been pretty important in their success over the last few games, and often actually being put over towards that tier 8 tank or maybe a tier 9 in most cases, not unlike this one, but he's definitely made his impact. Now, UTOPIA have sort of circumvented that 8 line. They're going to go around, and Hyber's going to be caught. He has to act very, very quickly. He had his gun at least turned in the right direction. But again, UTOPIA are going to be able to leap upon him and kill him. In fact, I don't even know if he'll be able to have a chance to fire here. He might have one
just
shot.
miss a shot?
He did. He missed that first shot. Completely shanked it. Wasn't even close. And now he's going to drop as well. Shuki will pick him up here. Beastie taking a bit of damage on the backside as Vetso flees across the field here. And Kazna Crew spreading out on this one quite a lot. Beastie being caught and he gets completely disintegrated there. Alien gets the final kill. Great setup for Kazna Crew. That's a very appropriate response to losing Hyber on that 8 line.
Yeah, for sure. But I mean, Hyber, you know, he's been often said that he's lacking some of that individual play, kind of like your Still Mojo. So he's got to improve. He's got to step up in these kind of games. He's got to hit those one shells he needs. And, you know, UTOPIA's still in this game quite considerably. They're pushing forwards. They're being aggressive, and they still have that 8 line. They still have the ability to go for cap number 2, and they really won. They got Papa on the hill as well with the T-54 lightweight, or at least he can get up the hill if he wants.
And maybe they should. Maybe they should push this 8 line right now. There's no one from Kazna Crew left to defend it, but maybe they don't know. They can only work off what they've managed to gather from spotting these tanks here. It's Nexus and Alien just up ahead of Hallucinogen. He's also going to go just around the corner and keep an eye on things there. UTOPIA maybe could be punished here for not really being decisive enough and making a move. That 8 line was really on for young and old, and they knew that because they pushed down there from the north side, but they're going to leave it. They're going to leave it instead. They're going to try and work something out on towards the other side of the map. UTOPIA have to attack. They've got 6 minutes and 15 seconds left, so still plenty of time to work with here. But that time, you can just quickly find will drip away as Nexus is in that very annoying spot where you do see IS-3s back in the old format push into, and now Nexus is there. Just sitting around the corner.
Yeah, Nexus trying to get those hull down shots. The IS-7's absolute beast in that position. Of course, in a tier 8 tank, you'd have an IS-3 there, but Kazna Crew on the defensive side, they have the advantage because it's a tier 8 for a tier 10. You know, Bishu's going down, the best player for UTOPIA versus Hyber, the shot caller, you know, the guy kept at the back of the pack in the least important position, perhaps. So, you know, he can now you know, be on his brigade, make sure they're going forward. But this is an interesting engagement here.
Yeah, the problem is with FV215B, a rear mounted turret means you have to put most of your tank around a corner before you can fire there, and he is definitely made to suffer for that one. A lot of shots coming in. Stefan, a perfect spot with the 50B here, and UTOPIA, they could have gone over the 8 line. They could have made some more other moves, but they stayed back. They let Kazna come to them far too slow from them. Ollie shakes his head. He definitely thinks that this one is done.
Yeah, this one surely is done. I mean, the Kazna Crew, they were ahead already, but I mean, those FV215Bs just trying to go around that corner, trying to get the engagement against a 3-pronged attack of Kazna Crew, clearly not knowing that Alien was in that position. I mean, that's suicide.
Well, Nexus now will cop at least some damage here as well, but I mean, he's the least of UTOPIA's concerns right now, with the rest of Kazna Crew slowly starting to close the net. In the north, it's a Batchat. In the south, of course, the rest of their team. And there's just a lightweight from Papa that can really spot a lot of this out, and it doesn't matter. Kazna don't care if they know exactly what they're up to, because Papa can just sit back here. Alien going to come in towards him. A lot of damage, of course. And Kazna Crew have the tanks, they have their health points, they have the time on their side here. And I mean, UTOPIA have left themselves without any tanks to really make this happen. Vetso going a little bit haphazardly in towards this one. Takes a lot of damage. Lucky to avoid that second shot from Mukro. I don't even know how he did. But now Eurofish throws himself in there. Kazna Crew know they have health points to expend. They're going to play a bit messy here as well, just to ensure that, I guess, all the loose ends are tied up.
Yeah, I think, you know, at the end of the day, you need to send a loose crew into the middle of the pack of wolves to distract them, and then you can come in from behind and you can take them in a vulnerable position. So, yeah, I think, you know, Kazna Crew started off shaky. You can clearly see their weaknesses right now. UTOPIA, a very good, a really, really good first performance. I love the heavy tank play. I still think they're, you know, unbeatable on Ghost Town so far. Probably like 90% win ratio on that map. Yep. So right now, I mean, both teams played well, but I mean, Kazna Crew clearly on your high skill maps, your coordinator maps, like your Prohorovkas, just a step ahead.
Kazna Crew finally starting to bring things back towards the end, and I guess, Melly, people's faith in Kazna Crew being rewarded here as well. They stayed behind them and they started to bring things back towards the end. We were kind of confused because Kazna Crew now looking like they're favouring that Himmelsdorf when that was literally their kryptonite last season.
Absolutely. I mean, they looked very good. It seems like they put more effort in finding their way of play style on that very map. And as you mentioned before, 82% still from the community after the fourth round, where things weren't looking that good. No. And from the beginning, there were they were kind of calculating with a close ending, and we were like questioning it because it was so clear the past seasons. But somehow that game changed so much, you can't really compare it to the past season anymore. But Kazna Crew came back from a good from a big deficit.
Absolutely.
And well, Utopia fought well as well. So both teams have clearly changed and suiting new format.
Yeah, I think Utopia shouldn't be too disappointed about that one as well. I mean, it's not only is an improvement as well, but they've definitely been able to show us some of their strengths. I mean, for them, I think in the future, they'll be trying to play to them as much as possible.
Yep.
They won. They did well on the maps that they picked. With the exception of Prohorovka there, they kind of hurt them, but both teams faltered on their picks at some point as well. So, coming up next, ladies and gentlemen, it's going to be Wombats on Tanks going up against Strong Siema. Going to be a matchup, again, that we saw last season. These two teams are fairly familiar with one another, so I look forward to seeing what the newly renamed Wombats on Tanks are coming back with after that disappointing result at Rumble in the West. We'll find out all that and more after the break.